Ongoing debate in hockey circles. Let's go ahead and discuss it. Just me and you. Just pretend this video is just between myself and one subscriber. And the conversation is one of European coaches. So I think there are simple reasons why European coaches don't end up coming over to coach in the National Hockey League. When you look at a lot of coaches, there's a lot of complaints about retreads. Well, the reason that a retreaded coach happens is because you know what to expect. You've got a resume, you know what to expect from him. You know his past successes and failures. You're able to talk to him prior to hiring him and get a good feel for where he is compared to where you are with what you want done with the team and an idea for how he can help you achieve that level of success. John Tortorella is a good example. So right now he's coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. When it didn't work in Vancouver, I kind of knew it wasn't going to work, but I understood what the Canucks were doing. They were trying to, kind of kickstart the Canucks back into the realm of playoff team and a dangerous team, and they felt that hiring him as coach would be such a huge departure from what the players knew that it might pick things up. And of course, it went in the other direction. It started out well enough, but then it ended up going in the other direction. Now, another way that you choose your coach is via your feeder system. So from the East Coast League, I guess there could be guys who come up from the East Coast, go to the American League, and then move their way up. And your American Hockey League coach will very often be the guy that people look at and go, that's their future coach. Sheldon Keefe with Toronto's being the obvious example. There's Dallas Eakins for Anaheim. Travis Green came up to Vancouver that way. It is not unusual for the American Hockey League coach to either move up to the National Hockey League level via the team that he's coaching for at the minor league level, or his work gets recognized by an NHL GM that goes, I like the way you coach down there, and you get scooped up by another organization. There's your assistant coaches who get promoted to main coach, or head coach, I should say, and that's generally how a lot of coaches are hired. You might have some Canadian Hockey League coaches, guys come out of the Q, guys come out of the Ontario League, but that can be really fraught with peril. Now, when you get into European hockey, you're looking at a different ice surface. You're looking at a completely different game. And if it's a guy who you're not really familiar with, or maybe it's somebody who's never coached on this ice surface before, there's a lot of peril to that. And I think there are reasons. Now, there's one time, and this was the early 2000s, of course, where the NHL had two coaches. There's Ivan Holenka with Pittsburgh, but more importantly was the guy who coached these guys. Now, this jersey, of course, is the Winter Classic worn by the Hawks this year, and the Blackhawks are viewed as a team that's a great success. 3 Stanley Cups in this decade, and all 3 over a 5-year period, and they're a tremendous success, but not always. And when they drafted Alpo Suhonen, through no fault of his own, Alpo came into a bad situation. So let's go ahead and look back to 2001. I like this. A new era begins for Vancouver, and it's Felix Potvin. Hilarious. So Chicago. And they have a picture here of Jocelyn Thibault, who was really, really under fire as a Chicago Blackhawk goaltender. Wherever the Chicago Blackhawks are going to be has to be better than where they've been. To quote Dwight Schrute, false. The Hawks haven't made the playoffs since 96-97 when Craig Hartsburg got them there. Now, eventually, things will get a lot better, but it gets darkest before the dawn. 96-97 when Craig Hartsburg got them there. They've gone through 3 coaches since then. Dirk Graham, who I thought was fine, Lauren Mollican, and Bob Pulford with mostly disastrous results. I will agree on that. Owner Bill Wirtz hired Mike Smith in last December to replace GM Bob Murray, and has given him complete control to rebuild the floundering franchise. Smith's first move was to hire Toronto assistant Alpo Suhonen. So Suhonen had some experience in North America prior to being brought in by the Chicago Blackhawks. It's up to Suhonen and Smith to prove to the Hawks' dwindling fan base that better days are ahead. The fans should be skeptical, Smith said. We've missed the playoffs 3 years in a row, and we're in a situation now where we need to prove that we're going to work out. So he understood that they had a lot of work to do, and he was totally willing to do it. And one of the first things he did was bring in Alpo Suhonen as coach. Now, the key part of that is where it says dwindling fan base. The Chicago Blackhawks had troubles. This was a franchise that hadn't won anything since 1961, and by 2001, people were tired of seeing these rebuilds and retreads and all this wonderful stuff. So I don't envy Mike Smith for the job he had here. I don't envy Alpo Suhonen for the job he had here either, because it was not a great franchise. Their goaltending, it said they gave it a D. They said Tebow still not proven entity. I think he exists. I think that's terrible to say he doesn't exist. Defense C minus, doesn't offer much support. Forwards B minus, thank God for Tony Amonte. Team C, Smith has his work cut out for him. Coming into this season, they had 78 points. The season before that, they had 70. So it's not like Alpo was coming into a team that was great, and it didn't help. We've missed the playoffs 3 years in a row, Smith said, and we're in a situation now where we need to prove that what we're going to do is going to work out. Which involves Suhonen. Suhonen's the key. The 51-year-old native of Finland is the NHL's first European-trained head coach and will introduce a flashier style of play to the Hawks with more emphasis on skating and puck control. I know how important this opportunity is, Suhonen said. It's very clear I need to be an important part of turning this ship around to get this team playing better hockey. We need to get this team energized and interested in practicing and playing. Can I do it? Yeah, for sure. That's why I'm here. So confident, and it just didn't work. And there's Tony Amonte, and they're like, never fear. Monty's here. Tony Amonte's one of the league's steadiest scoring threats. And this was not a fantastic team. So we look at it, and on the goaltending front, you have Jocelyn Tebow. On defense, Brian McCabe, Boris Mironov, Doug Smolik had played 43 games the year before. The in crowd, they added Mark Bell, Kyle Calder, who both came in as kids. Steve McCarthy and Valeri Zalapukin came in as a free agent. So, yeah. And Monty had 84 points. This was the year that the year before Suhonen came in was the year that Steve Sullivan was added on waivers from Toronto. He had 1 assist in 7 games, scored 64 points in 73 games with Chicago, and Don Cherry almost lost his mind over that. But this is the team that you're bringing in a European coach to run, and it was a disaster. And a lot of blame got thrown at Alpo. Was it fair? Nah, that team was crap. But, it had some good pieces, but still, it was going to be a while before they get back to respectability. This is why people say, well, Chicago tanked. Oh, they were tanking for a while. That was a bad team for a while. There was nothing on purpose about what was going on in the early 2000s. That was all a disaster. So, let's go back to Jukka Jalonen. The teams that would look at hiring him are going to have to be teams run by a general manager that feels either really secure in his job or a brand new guy who goes, all right, we're doing something brand new here. We're going to do things different. That hiring by the Chicago Blackhawks gets mentioned. Ivan Hlinka gets mentioned as well. Hlinka had 1 good year with the Penguins, and then it sort of fell off really quickly after that, and he's out of a job. And again, it comes back to the different ice surface and just an unfamiliarity. I'm not trying to say there aren't good coaches in Europe, because every time this comment and this conversation starts, there are obviously going to be good coaches in Europe. There are good players in Europe. They get coached by somebody to become good players. But National Hockey League teams, they have a certain way they do things. And the only team that went outside of the norm and brought in a European coach, it was an absolute disaster. And while it's been almost 2 decades since that, I do think that plays a role in it. I think when you're a general manager and you go, all right, like if I'm let's just say as Jim Benning, let's just say this year's a total disaster off the hop for the Canucks, and Travis Green doesn't work. He has a big fight publicly with one of the players. If I'm looking, the first place I'm looking is the American League. Okay. And so if I don't see an assistant on this team that I go, yep, that guy could be a head coach for us, then I'm looking in the American League next. And then if that doesn't work, then I'm looking at, okay, who's out of work that I could hire right now? So sort of like when Joel Quenneville got fired by these guys, immediately everybody's like, where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? So those are your options, and you're going to find a coach with one of those three options, and it's probably not going to take very much. And I would be surprised if people are calling you and saying, "Hey, I understand you need a coach. Well, I kind of need a place to coach. You want me to come in? I can come in. I can come in for a meeting next week. You want me to come in? I can come in and talk to you." Um, for a European coach to get hired, I think it's a severe challenge. Um, because unlike players can come in and say, "All right, here I am. I came in on a training or like a tryout. What do you think?" And a GM goes, "Yeah, that's fine." And you can watch them play and go, "Yeah, we can figure that out and work them into our system." A coach, it's you're handing them your team rather than just bringing in a player from Europe. And there's lots of guys who from the World Championships clearly have earned the right to a contract now, and some guys have already started signing contracts since the World Championships ended. To bring in a coach, you're saying, "Here's my team. Take care of it." There's a risk there. So I don't know who the team will be that hires the next European coach. I can say I'm pretty confident it won't be Chicago. I'm pretty confident it won't be Pittsburgh. But hockey is a very, very unpredictable. The National Hockey League is very unpredictable. And I don't know. Maybe it happens. But when you look back, and again, I don't blame Alpo for what happened, but that's the name that comes up all the time. And it is important to remember he inherited a team that wasn't going to make the playoffs anyways. And then they were a disaster when he was the coach, and he was out pretty quick. So there are definitely managers that would be nervous. I'd even go as far as to say if Columbus had a slow start and John Tortorella lost his job, that Jarmo Kekalainen would follow that same pattern. Who do I have as an assistant that I could move up? Who's in the American League that could come up and coach? Who's currently out of work, who's been a coach in the NHL before, that I think would work with this team? So it's not as much that there's some kind of a bias against European coaches. It's just the way that NHL teams look at hiring. That seems to be the pattern they follow. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And how long is it before we see another European coach hired by the National Hockey League? Or do you think it doesn't happen? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Could Seattle be that team? It's been rumored that there's all kinds of names out there that are attached. But let me know what you guys think. And does Kruger count? Because Kruger comes over from Britain to coach the Buffalo Sabres. Does that count at all? Anyways, just throwing that out there. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and I'll talk to you again soon.